Hey everyone, I'm Kate Kennedy and I'm here with day 40 of 100 Days of Kane, PA. And one name that kept coming up when I was asking for ideas of people to talk with and share stories was the name of Dr. Sicker. He and his wife have been here for 59 years and have made such an impact on the people of Kane through delivering babies, making house calls, having the family practice that he had for many, many years. So today we're going to go ahead and hear directly from him about how he arrived in Kane, some experiences he had as a practicing doctor here, and then about a plane crash that he was on site for and the ways and the stories about that time too. So I'm going to go ahead and flip you around and we're going to go on in. Hello, Dr. Sicker.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having us here today. I'm really
You're welcome.
excited to talk with you about your time in Kane.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and get started with how did you get here?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but it's kind of an accident that I'm even arrived in Kane. I'll start way back when I finished medical school in 1957 in Philadelphia. I interned the next year in Allegheny General Hospital in Pittsburgh. It was a great year for me, following which I joined the Public Health Service, the Division of Indian Health, and my first assignment was with the Sioux Indians in South Dakota, and my second year was with the Chippewa Indians in northern Minnesota. After that second year, I decided to go into private practice and felt that we wanted to stay in western Pennsylvania, so we came back here, my wife and I, and we started looking for a place to practice. At that time, we had a list of towns that were advertising for general practitioners, and we were looking for a small town with a hospital where I can practice the type of medicine that I wanted to practice. So we started down south in Pennsylvania in Meyersdale, and we moved on up, and we were in various towns all the way up, and then we ended up, I think about the 10th place was in Ridgeway, and that we were keeping a log of what each visit, how we assessed it, whether they had a hospital, what kind of schools they had, and the church and the communities and all this thing. And we hadn't made up our mind yet when we got to Ridgeway, but we were impressed with Ridgeway. It was a nice place. It was a small hospital, and they seemed friendly. But curiously enough, that at the end of the visit, the lady in charge of the laboratory there said, "Can I talk to you for a second?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Well, I'm sure we could use you here in Ridgeway, but I tell you where they could use you more, and that's in Kane." She said, "Poor Dr. Cleveland and his wife are going crazy up there, and they need help desperately." So she made the contact, and we came up and we visited Kane, and we were impressed. We were impressed with the hospital. It was just what I was looking for, a small hospital where we could do pediatrics and OB and general medicine. And it was well equipped and had a good surgeon. And we were impressed with the town. The town was quite different then. It was a bustling community. We had 5 auto dealers in Kane at that time. There was Jacobus Polka Motors, there was Zooks, there was Avenelli Chevrolet, there was Batista Motor Sales, and then Anna Abraham had sold cars. There was countless number of stores. There was 3 shoe stores. There was 3 stores for ladies, and actually with Broadbent Steitler, department stores, there's 4 places women could buy clothes. They had 1 store just for children's clothes, and there was 3 men's stores present, so everything was here. So we decided to settle here, and I'm happy that I did. I was able to practice the type of medicine that I wanted to practice. I did OB, pediatrics. I covered the emergency room. I assisted in surgery many times with Dr. Abanez, and over the years, thousands of cases we did together. And so it's been a good year, good practice for me.
What year did you move here? What year was that?
1960.
1960 was when you first came here.
Right. And then I did OB until, for 28 years, until 1988. And the reason I quit was because it was costing me more for my malpractice insurance than I was getting for delivering the babies. In fact, when I first started delivering the first year, my malpractice insurance was $60 a year. And then it went into multiple thousands of dollars, and it was more than I was getting for delivering all the risks involved in delivering. The OB was difficult here because there was no backup. You're by yourself, and in the middle of the night, you're faced with a difficult situation like a breach and without anesthesia. So it was very difficult, and that's how I lost all my hair, just doing OB. So I decided it was time to hang it up and smell the roses, and then I found out that the roses don't even smell anymore. They're all hybrids. So anyway, that didn't work out. So it's been a good haul. I'm glad I came to Kane. It's things have changed now. It's a lot different than when I came, but it's been very rewarding.
Okay, so you came in 1960. You were delivering babies from 60 to 88, 28 years. How many babies total did you deliver in that time?
Well, the girls kept track in the office. There was over 2,400, and for some reason they stopped counting, but it was over 2,400 in Kane anyway. So
that's a lot of babies. A lot of people who are watching this right now have been delivered by you.
Yes, well, we've been through a lot together. Yeah. So.
And in that time, you also had your family practice. You assisted in the hospital with surgeries and in the ER. Did you start something at the hospital?
Well, the intensive care, I started that. But we had a pediatric ward then, and we had an OB department, and then I started the intensive care with the monitors, et cetera. So it's been very, very good. So.
It was busy for you. You kept busy.
Yeah,
you did house calls, you said earlier, too.
Yeah, I did lots of house calls. Originally, my office calls were $3 when I started, and my house calls were $5. And I did thousands of house calls because nobody went to the emergency room at that time. Now they call 911. In those days, you went to the house and made house calls. Over the years, though, the house calls weren't as frequent.
So they would just call you up and you would go over?
You go, try to find a place and go. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and so you stopped delivering babies in 88, but when did you finally retire from the practice?
I practiced for 44 years, so I retired in 2004, and I was 72 and a half at that time, and I thought it was enough, so.
Yeah. Well, what an impact you've made, and how have you been keeping yourself busy in retirement?
Well, I have a big place to keep up here. I like to garden, and I do some woodworking, and so I keep busy. And I have 7 children and 21 grandchildren that keep me busy too. So.
What a full life.
Well, yeah, I've been blessed. So.
Well, one of the things that many people have mentioned when they mention your name is the story of the plane crash on Christmas Eve. Would you be willing to share that with us today?
Yeah, well, very briefly, it was Christmas Eve, 1968, and I had my 7 children here. We were waiting for Santa to arrive in the snowstorm, and turns out Santa got stuck with his truck up in the field and went and took the wrong road, and he came, and the snow was deep, and it was cold, and Santa came, and he'd come up the driveway, and he was saying, "Ho, ho, ho, I'm stuck in a ditch." And so after he left, I went with my 4-wheel Jeep and pulled him out of the ditch. And as soon as I came in, I got a call from the state police, Corporal Woodage, saying, "We need some help. There's been a plane crash. We don't know where it's at. Can you come?" So I don't know if he called me because I was a doctor or because I had a 4-wheel drive. But anyway, we went, and we had difficulty finding it. And they eventually found it when overhead, a plane flying overhead spotted a fire that was started by some of the survivors of the plane crash. It was very cold that night, and it was a very difficult place to get to. We had to go down we drove as far as we could with the Jeep, and then we got on the snowmobile, went down a railroad bed and across the swamp to the plane crash where the plane was. And the plane
What area was this?
Pardon?
What area was the plane crash
This
in?
was between, it was north of the Kinzu Bridge towards Bradford.
Okay.
And it was a very isolated area, so it was very difficult. There was no lights, very poor communications then, because we didn't have all the radios, et cetera, that we have now. But it was very cold and dark, and nobody was in charge, and so it was difficult. But 20 people perished in that crash. the people were hanging upside down and with their face in the snow because the plane came in upside down and split open. So the people were hanging by their seat belts and made it difficult to extract them. So we did that till about 2 in the morning, and then we had to call it quits because we thought we had everybody out that was alive. And 13 days later, another plane crash occurred up there, but it landed on the golf course. But interesting enough, this came in upside down too and split open. And not so many people died there, but it was easy to get there because it was right on the golf course. But there was one, the last person that came out was a young lady. She was a high school student that was difficult. She was really stuck in her seat. And we couldn't get her out. I finally got a hacksaw and hacksawed the foot of the seat so we could get her loose. And 40 years later, she told me her name was Kristen King. At that time, she was crying and screaming she was going to die. And 40 years later, I found out who it was, and because she was on the internet asking who it was that pulled her out of the plane. I didn't know. There was one person that assisted me. He was on the other side trying to free her legs, and that was Joe Giesig from James City, but I didn't know who it was at the time until later. But she finally flew in 40 years later to view the area, and she put a plaque up, had a plaque put up at the airport concerning the plane crash. So it was,
yeah, I mean, her life was saved by you. You showed up in the middle of the winter night to help rescue people along with others, but it sounds like obviously that was a really important thing to her. Like, you saved her life.
Well, she was fortunate, but then she wasn't fortunate to be in the plane crash either. So, but she remembers us every year at Christmas time. She sends us gifts, and we've kept up. She is a hairdresser, and she lives in California at the present time.
Gosh.
But
that's so amazing that you are still in touch with her and that she found you after all those years to thank you.
Yeah. So.
Wow. So you've done a lot here in Kane. You've made quite an impact between delivering babies, making house calls, showing up on the scene of plane crashes, and helping rescue people. You've had quite a run here in Kane.
Yeah, I've been kept busy. Yeah, so
I would say
it's been good. It's been a great run. Yeah. So.
Is there anything else that you want to share? Any other stories or memories or things about Kane that you'd like to share?
No, I just think that we came here by chance. We didn't know anything about Kane because they weren't even advertising. But we decided we liked the place. We decided to stay, and my 7 children all graduated from high school and all did well. And I don't think I changed anything. Maybe I did the best I could, but sometimes it wasn't the best. So. But we were somewhat isolated, and it was a difficult practice in medicine sometimes because there was no backup. And but we did the best we could.
And you worked alongside Dr. Cleland, Dr. Charles Cleland, Dr. Elizabeth Cleland, Dr. Ibanez.
Yeah. Yes, Dr. Ibanez did a lot of surgery with him. Yeah.
And then who worked in your office with you? Who were some of the people that kept your office running?
Well, Ann Malducci was my first nurse. She was the best paid nurse in town. She was making $1.50 an hour. That was back in 1960. But she was with me for a while, and then and Margaret Caruso was a very, very faithful worker. And let's see, Kathy Johnson was my RN for many years in the office, and so
you got to work with some good people.
Yeah. So my only regret that I have is I should have built an office building, but I never got around to doing it. But anyway, that's over and done. So.
Well, you had a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Capturing your attention.
Yeah, I was busy. Yeah. So.
Awesome. Well, you decided to stay in Kane after you retired, so you must like it here.
Oh, I like it here. Yeah, I won't be anyplace else. I enjoy the country up here. It's beautiful, and I got a nice place, and I'm comfortable, and yeah. So
What are some of your hobbies?
Well, I enjoy gardening, but I also enjoy some woodworking. I turn some bowls and give them away. So I enjoy turning them from cherry burls from cherry trees, which we have a lot of around here. So people are good enough to find the burls for me and bringing them to me, and so that's what I do now. So,
well, we're all grateful that however many 59 years ago,
yeah,
you had the happy accident of finding yourself moving to Kane. You made quite an impact over the years, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No. That's about it.
That's about it?
Yeah. That's what I think.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed hearing the stories from Dr. Sicker as much as I did. It's just amazing to think of the impact that one person can have between delivering babies, caring for babies and families, being available to go to people's homes to help them when they're sick, being available to show up during really big events like the plane crash that he shared about. We're so happy that he's able to enjoy retirement, that he came here years ago. And I would love to hear from you guys. Were you delivered by Dr. Sicker? If you were, comment below. And if you have any stories or memories you'd like to share about him, we'd love to hear about that as well. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you again tomorrow for day 41.